Welcome back to Bee's Travelogue, episode 14, December in Mokpo. On a cold and snowy day that actually had a warning for freezing rain in the evening, I still decided to head out to Mokpo because I wanted to see the streets lit up. From the bus stop at the main train station in Mokpo, I headed straight north into the shopping area. Because it was so cold and still sort of raining and sleeting, there were very few people on the streets. It was right before Christmas though, so I was very surprised to not see more people despite the weather. The traditional Korean dress is the hanbok, usually tied to one side with a ribbon. It started to sleet really hard again, and I was wondering if I'd made the right decision, but I decided to keep going and headed further north. When I came to these houses, I wasn't sure if there was a shortcut to go through to a statue that I noticed in the distance right there, but I decided to go on the main road and got to these stairs, which were sort of icy. And then suddenly I found Shin again. I really liked the way the light reflected on the wet tiles, and then the view from up there of Mokpo was really beautiful. Because it was still raining and supposed to get even colder at night, I was really getting worried about being trapped in Mokpo on icy streets and perhaps with no buses going later. So I decided it was time to head back downtown to the bus stop. Yudalsan and the cable car were lit up in the distance. The streets were steep and icy, but there were handrails, and I really found that in Korea, streets are built with safety and comfort in mind. Seeing the lights lit up above the streets and watching them change color, I was very happy that I had come. I also saw a few more people, so it didn't seem as dangerous anymore to stay a little bit longer. I walked around and found several streets with these sort of arches above them, all of them lit up in different neon colors, going through a whole sequence of color changes. When it started snowing heavily again, I took the bus back to Namak. I really love seeing lights reflected on wet ground. From that day forward, it started snowing more and more. Every day I woke up to a little bit more snow on the ground. It was sort of pretty seeing the buildings around me get covered in snow. I had winter jackets left from the previous teachers, so I wasn't cold walking to work. One night when I left the building, I found a really heavy snowstorm. There were several centimeters of snow on the ground. Cars were going very carefully. It felt like a magical winter wonderland. However, snow removal seems to be not in the vocabulary of Mokpo South Koreans. The streets that I had to walk through to get to work, especially the pedestrian walkways, were covered in ice the following few days. It was like walking over a slippery ice slide every day. Nevertheless, when the next weekend was sunny and cold, I decided to head back to Mokpo and go to the same places I had been before, this time hopefully less icy. It's interesting how even when I walk through a street that I've walked through before, if I look around more carefully, I still discover new things I haven't seen before. This time I discovered there was another terrace right below the staircase where I had gone up to see Shin. And from this terrace, I was able to look south over Mokpo again. From here, I was overlooking the same buildings and alleys I had walked through before. I saw the same church and temple, the mountains in the distance, and the harbor. Shin in the daytime was not as magical as during the evening hours in the rain, but the view was spectacular during the daytime. I decided to follow people up the icy and snowy steps to see what I would find. The view, of course, got better and better as I went higher up, but it certainly was quite dangerous. There was ice and snow everywhere, and I held on to the railing to make sure I wouldn't fall. Once I reached the top of the stairs, I found this gazebo from where I had a wonderful view of most of Mokpo. People on top struck up a conversation and one person offered to take a photo of me. Seeing other people walk further, I decided to go a little bit higher up. But when the road got much steeper and was really snowy, I decided to stop. I just took a rest on a park bench and took some photos, and then I decided to find my way back down into the city. I followed these steps down really carefully and then walked along the street until I came to another gazebo. The church on the left here is one that always intrigued me when I saw it from the bus, so I decided one day I would go and check out this church. Here's this next gazebo that was sort of on a promontory overlooking the city. I had another view of the marine cable car, this sort of statue, and downtown Mokpo right below me, all the way to Hadang and Namak. Most of the gazebos are painted very prettily, and the designs on the inside are always very interesting. I also discovered that a lot of fences in Korea have decorations around the playgrounds and around town. I then walked further down and came into another area that was painted and had interesting things to find and learn about. As usual, there were more cats, and as I took note of all the interesting places to see, I decided to come back in the spring or summer to explore more. At this point, I was hungry and was hoping to find some kind of food court in this shopping mall. But when I went inside, I was really surprised to find it completely empty and devoid of people. The following week was Christmas week, and we had one day off on the 25th of December. The night before, my adult student brought cheesecake for the two of us to enjoy. And then on Christmas Day, right before lunchtime, my boss and his wife called me and asked me to go to lunch with them. We were keeping an eye on their son, who was hanging out with friends at the same restaurant. After lunch, I went back home. Christmas in Korea is a couple holiday. It's usually for boyfriends and girlfriends to spend time together, husbands and wives. It's not a family holiday. Children don't get any presents. I cooked myself a very nice dinner with pork and potatoes, and then decided to walk around the city at night to see if there was anything special going on. I went to the big park and found this statue sitting on a bench. And in the center of the park, around the Christmas tree, there were actually a few families just looking at the Christmas tree and spending time together walking around, just like I was walking around. I had gotten calls and cards from my family, so I didn't really feel lonely, but it was nice to stand around a Christmas tree with some people. My office closed the Friday before New Year's Eve, so I had bought tickets to spend the long weekend in Seoul. Please join me for episode 15.